In a clash of worldviews, a simple question about the start of everything reveals a foundational crack in modern unbelief. What happens when a leading scientific mind is confronted with the logical end of his own materialist road? It exposes a dilemma that's more than academic, it's about the very framework through which we see reality. Welcome to Winds of Thought. You've likely heard the exchange. A public intellectual is asked the classic question, who, or what, initiated the Big Bang? The common scientific answer is a frontier of knowledge, an "I don't know." But is that a humble admission of limits, or is it a philosophical dead end in disguise? This conversation isn't just about cosmology. It's a window into the collision between two complete systems of thought. First, let's establish the playing field. When asked if God exists, the scientific response often pivots. Which God, it asks, pointing to thousands listed across human history. Based on the claimed influence of any divine being in the world, the conclusion is often, I remain unconvinced anyone is in charge. This is agnosticism, a withholding of belief due to a perceived lack of evidence. But this stance immediately runs into the historical figure of Jesus. Here, a fascinating split occurs. Many, even some founding thinkers, have accepted Jesus as a wise historical teacher while stripping away the miraculous claims. This seems like a reasonable compromise. Yet, this creates a new problem. If you accept Jesus existed but deny the possibility of God, you are left with a profound contradiction. How do you handle a man who said the most audacious things about himself, claiming divine identity, if the supernatural is impossible from the start? If God does not exist, then miracles cannot happen. If God does not exist and Jesus claimed to be God, then Jesus was either lying, insane, or legend. The entire biblical narrative becomes a beautiful but false story. This is the clean, logical materialist conclusion. But then we return to the first, biggest question of all, why does anything exist? This is where the conversation turns from history to first principles. The dominant scientific story is the Big Bang, a cosmic beginning from a singularity. This presents us with only three logical options for ultimate reality. Option 1, the universe itself is eternal, stretching infinitely into the past. Option 2, the universe came from literal, absolute nothing, no properties, no laws, no potential. Option 3, something that is not the universe is eternal and caused the universe to be. When examined, options 1 and 2 collapse under their own weight. The idea of an infinite past isn't just a big number, it's a logical impossibility. You cannot traverse an infinite series of moments to arrive at today. Infinity minus any number is still infinity. We would never arrive at the present moment if an actual infinite past had to be completed. The idea of something from literal nothing is even more incoherent. From nothing, nothing comes. It's not a scientific proposition, it's a philosophical absurdity. We are left with a powerful inference: if the universe began to exist, it requires a transcendent cause. This leaves us staring at the third option. And this is precisely where the materialist narrative hits its wall. The response becomes a repeated, we don't know. It's a frontier. But is, I don't know, a sufficient stopping point when your entire worldview has led you to a brick wall? This is the critical pivot. When you follow the evidence of a cosmic beginning to its logical conclusion, you don't just find a gap in knowledge. You find a gap in the explanatory power of materialism itself. It's not that we lack an answer within the materialist framework. It's that the framework cannot provide one. The road has ended. As one analyst of the debate puts it, you're at a dead end. Instead of concluding you might be on the wrong road, you throw up your hands and say, I can't see past this wall. But the wall itself is the message. The arrow of logic points to something beyond space, time, and matter. This is the massive problem. It's not a lack of data, it's the failure of a paradigm to account for the most fundamental fact, existence itself. If your system of thought cannot explain the very thing it rests upon, is that not a reason to re-examine its foundations? There's a messiah complex in some scientific circles, a faith that given enough time and brainpower, every mystery will fall to material explanation. But some questions are not puzzles within a system, they are questions about the system. The origin of all physical reality is one such question. You cannot look into a microscope or telescope and find the cause of the very reality that allows microscopes and telescopes to exist. The answer, if there is one, must come from outside the system. This logically opens the door to the possibility of revelation, of a cause making itself known. And this brings us back from cosmic origins to the historical person. If there is a transcendent, self-existent cause, and if that cause is purposeful and relational, how would we know? How would it bridge the gap? This is where the figure of Jesus becomes not a distraction from the big question, but a potential answer to it. The claim is staggering: the uncaused cause, the ground of all being, entered its own creation. Not as a distant force, but as a person who suffered, died, and made claims that demand a verdict. The resurrection is the historical hinge. Without it, Jesus remains a moral teacher. With it, he becomes something that shatters the materialist box entirely. The apostles didn't go to their deaths for a spiritual metaphor, they died for a claim about an event in history. This creates a powerful convergence. On one end, you have the logical necessity of a transcendent cause for the universe. On the other, you have a specific, historical claim of that cause revealing itself within the universe. They are separate arguments, but they point in the same direction. The dogmatic commitment to methodological naturalism, the rule that only material causes can be considered, forces a thinker to dismiss one half of this convergence without fair examination. The Bible is rejected a priori because it contains the miraculous. But if the cosmological argument cracks the door open to the transcendent, shouldn't that inform how we read a text that claims to be a message from that transcendence? It requires a sliver of intellectual openness. Not blind faith, but the willingness to follow the evidence where it leads, even if it leads outside comfortable boundaries. This is the core of the exposure. It's not that atheists or agnostics are unintelligent. It's that their operating system has a fatal error it cannot resolve. It can describe the universe with breathtaking precision, but it cannot answer why there is a universe to describe. When confronted with this, the only honest response within that system is a helpless, if dignified, I don't know. A worldview that ends in a perpetual, I don't know, about existence itself is a story without a first chapter. So, what do we do with this? The invitation is to intellectual integrity. To see the dead end for what it is. To recognize that the human longing for meaning, for a moral law that transcends opinion, and for an answer to the question of existence, might not be evolutionary glitches. They might be clues. The universe whispers of a beginning. History shouts of a man who claimed to be the answer. The choice is how you connect the dots. Do you stay at the dead end, admiring the wall? Or do you consider that the road to truth might require a different map entirely? If this exploration of ideas, of the limits of knowledge and the questions that define us, resonated with you, please support the channel by liking this video for winds of thought. What is the most compelling argument on either side of this great debate? Share your thoughts in the comments below.